Beneath London's bustling streets, a group of workers uncovered a secret buried for centuries. Their tools struck the resting place of Crusader knights who had once waged war in Egypt before returning to England. The air was thick with the weight of history, but the discovery was short-lived. Men in black suits appeared, seizing control of the site with an authority that silenced all questions. The workers were dismissed, and whispers began of a diverted train route hiding a purpose far greater than anyone imagined. In the golden sands of ancient Egypt, Princess Amonet stood as the pharaoh's chosen heir, her path to divinity seemingly assured. Her ambitions burned bright until the day a son was born, a boy destined to claim what was once hers. The boy's cry echoed a shift in fate, and rage festered in Amonet's heart. Desperate to reclaim her throne, she sought powers forbidden even by the gods themselves. One moonless night, Amonet invoked a ritual cloaked in shadows, calling upon the god of death. From the darkness emerged a figure who offered her a dagger gleaming with crimson pearls, an unholy bond forged in blood. With this blade, she became the god's chosen harbinger, but her soul slipped further into a chasm she could not escape. The throne room became a scene of carnage as Amonet, wielding her dark powers, ended the lives of her family, the pharaoh, the queen, and the newborn who had stolen her future. She sought to complete her pact by offering a young man's body to the god of death. But before the ritual reached its conclusion, the royal priests intervened, capturing her in the act. Amonet's punishment was as merciless as her crimes. Stripped of her freedom, she was mummified alive, her screams echoing through eternity. Sealed in a forbidden tomb far from Egypt's sacred lands, she was left under an unbroken curse, her name erased but her story etched into the shadows. Centuries later, in the scorching Iraqi desert, two American soldiers, Nick and Vale, strayed from duty in search of adventure. Nick, ever the schemer, found a treasure map and lured Vale to a rebel-occupied village with the promise of riches. What began as a reckless escapade soon became a journey into the heart of a dark and ancient mystery. As they crept into the village, the shadows betrayed them, and armed rebels swarmed from every corner. Trapped and outnumbered, Vale's panic overcame him, and he desperately called for reinforcements. The tension crackled in the air like a storm ready to break. The sky erupted as military drones arrived, raining destruction on the rebels. Explosions tore through the streets, scattering their foes. But the chaos had a price. Massive tremors triggered a landslide, dragging Nick and Vale into the depths below. In the rubble, an ancient tomb revealed itself, its entrance yawning like the mouth of history. When the military arrived, fury followed. Nick and Vale's unauthorized escapade had cost dearly. Their commanding officer, already aware of their black market dealings, unleashed his wrath on the duo. Suddenly, Helsie appeared, her fury rivaling the commanding officer's. Marching toward Nick, she slapped him without hesitation, accusing him of stealing her treasure map. As an archaeologist, she instantly recognized the tomb's significance and marveled at its unexpected presence in Iraq, far from Egypt's sands. Determined to salvage the situation, the officer ordered Nick and Vale to assist Helsie in exploring the tomb. Their punishment would be to uncover its secrets under her watchful eye. Descending into the darkness, the trio ventured deeper, the air thick with ancient mystery. Helsie spotted traces of mercury, its shimmering trails evoking both awe and dread. To her, it was a clear sign. Mercury was once used to seal away unspeakable evils. Their journey brought them to a vast pool of mercury, its surface unnervingly still. As Helsie studied it, Nick and Vale, ever opportunistic, turned their attention to the glittering artifacts scattered around. Greed gleamed in their eyes. Nick approached a peculiar object suspended by ropes, his curiosity overpowering caution. A single shot severed the ropes, and the tomb responded with an eerie shift. From the mercury pool rose an ancient sarcophagus, its surface etched with menacing designs. Chaos erupted as swarms of spiders poured forth, their skittering forms engulfing the chamber. Vale, frantic and bitten, fired wildly, the echoes of his gunshots mingling with screams. When the madness subsided, Nick's gaze lingered on the sarcophagus, and the world around him seemed to fade. Across a barren desert, he saw her, Amonet, her beauty hypnotic, declaring him the chosen one. The vision dissolved as reality returned, and the team prepared to extract the ominous artifact by helicopter. After retrieving the sarcophagus from its ancient tomb, Nick and the team transported it to a cargo plane, bound for America. In the distance, a massive sandstorm approached, its intensity unnerving. They hastily secured the artifact and managed to take off just as the storm closed in. On board, Vale began exhibiting strange behavior, his earlier spider bite seemingly affecting him in unexpected ways. Without warning, he became aggressive, attacking the crew and injuring the commanding officer. When Vale lunged at Nick, Nick was forced to stop him, resulting in Vale collapsing. The incident left the crew shaken and the atmosphere charged with tension. As the plane flew onward, a flock of birds collided with it, severely damaging its systems. The aircraft spiraled out of control, forcing the team into a fight for survival. Nick acted quickly, securing a parachute onto Helsie to ensure her safety. With no time left to save himself, He stayed aboard as the plane crashed into an old structure in London, its wreckage buried in mystery. The next day, Halsey and a team of authorities examined the crash site and its victims. To everyone's disbelief, Nick was found alive, his survival defying explanation. Meanwhile, Nick began experiencing visions of Vale, whose presence seemed real only to him. Halsey, perplexed by the unfolding events, realized they were dealing with forces beyond their understanding. At the crash site, 2 investigators uncovered the sarcophagus. When one attempted to open it, they unintentionally triggered something ancient and powerful. The entity within began to draw strength from the living, restoring its form piece by piece. With its growing power, it exerted control over those nearby, twisting them to its will. In a quiet corner of the city, Halsey shared her findings with Nick. She explained her mission to uncover the tomb of a forgotten figure from history, known for ambitions that led to their erasure from records. She also revealed her search for an artifact linked to an ancient ritual. Halsey spoke of how the Crusaders had hidden the artifact in London, leaving behind a trail of unanswered questions. After uncovering the ancient tomb in London, Halsey became certain that the mummy within the sarcophagus was Amonet, an Egyptian princess condemned for her dark pact with Seth. Her suspicions deepened when she theorized that the sarcophagus's mystical energy had inexplicably saved Nick during the plane crash. The connection between Nick and the ancient artifact felt undeniable, leaving Halsey both intrigued and uneasy. As Halsey explained her findings, Nick began experiencing eerie visions of Vale, his deceased friend. Vale appeared in the reflections of mirrors, warning Nick that they were cursed and that Amonet had marked him for a sinister purpose. He revealed that Nick was central to the unfolding events, making escape seem impossible. Fear and confusion gripped Nick as he struggled to comprehend his role in this dark prophecy. Later, Nick was assaulted by another terrifying vision, a swarm of rats crawling over him. The nightmare dissolved into nothing, leaving Nick shaken and disoriented. Halsey found him and managed to pull him back to reality, but Nick felt an invisible force drawing him toward the church where their plane had crashed. Compelled by an unseen force, Nick returned to the ruined church, only to be ambushed by grotesque zombie-like figures. They restrained him as Amonet emerged from the shadows, her presence both commanding and menacing. She revealed her intent to use Nick's body as a vessel for Seth, her chilling declaration making his fate seem inevitable. Amonet shattered a towering statue, revealing an ancient dagger hidden within. She prepared to complete her ritual, but discovered the red gemstone needed to activate the dagger was missing. Enraged, she paused her attack, inadvertently giving Nick the chance to break free. He seized the moment, determined to escape the nightmare. Halsey arrived amidst the chaos, urging Nick to leave, but Amonet turned her attention to the archaeologist. As Halsey fought to evade her grasp, Nick intervened, freeing Halsey and helping her escape. They fled in a car, but every route they took seemed to lead back to the church, as though trapped in a loop orchestrated by Amonet's power. Their final attempt to escape ended in disaster, as their car was overrun by Amonet's undead minions and driven into a ravine. Though they survived the fall, their relief was short-lived. Amonet stood waiting for them, her cold gaze promising that there would be no escape. Nick and Halsey realized they were facing a force that would stop at nothing to claim them. Nick struggled against Amonet, but her strength proved overwhelming. He was thrown to the ground, powerless. Just then, a group of mysterious soldiers arrived. They subdued Amonet with specialized weapons and sedated Nick, knocking him unconscious. When Nick regained consciousness, he found himself in an unusual facility, filled with ancient artifacts and research materials. A calm man introduced himself as Dr. Henry Jekyll, a scientist and neurosurgeon. Though he appeared composed, Henry's body briefly trembled, and his face darkened. He quickly injected himself with a serum that restored his normal state, revealing a mysterious illness that plagued him. Henry led Nick into a large room where Amonet was securely restrained. Mercury was continuously injected into her, to suppress her powers. Nick was reunited with Halsey, who revealed she had been working under Henry's orders. She apologized for keeping the truth hidden. Henry explained that Nick had been cursed to become the vessel for Set, the Egyptian god of death. He assured Nick that he could save him. But Amonet interrupted, her voice unwavering. She offered Nick eternal life and unimaginable power if he accepted his fate as Set's vessel, promising him the strength to rule the world. Meanwhile, Henry's team had uncovered the missing red gemstone, the final piece of Amonet's ancient dagger. The discovery was quickly reported to Henry, intensifying the urgency of the situation. Nick's hopes for a cure were shattered when he learned of Henry's true intentions. The doctor planned to complete the dagger and use it to stab Nick, thus awakening Set's power for his own experiments. Halsey finally realized Henry's dark plan and tried to warn Nick. She revealed that Henry had no intention of saving him, only using his body for his own gain. As the tension grew, Nick was forced to make a difficult decision: trust Henry or face the overwhelming curse of Amonet. Fury surged through Nick as he discovered Henry's twisted plan to exploit his curse for experiments. Before he could react, Henry clutched his chest, gasping in pain. Desperate, he reached for his vial of serum, but Nick was quicker, grabbing it from his hands. In another room, Amonet seized control of a guard using a small spider, an eerie display of her growing power. With her newfound freedom, she broke from her restraints, setting her sights on Nick once again. As Henry's condition worsened, his transformation into Hyde was swift. His demonic alter ego, now full of power, approached Nick. Hyde offered an alliance, promising Nick dominion as the god of death to rule the world together. But Nick, undeterred, refused. A brutal fight ensued, with Nick injecting the serum into Hyde's chest, forcing him to revert to his human form. Just as the dust settled, Halsey arrived, urging Nick to destroy the red gem. Only then could the curse end. Their escape was cut short as Amonet, now freed, unleashed a powerful sandstorm to capture Nick. The streets descended into chaos, but in the midst of the storm, Nick saw Vale. His cryptic guidance led him toward the red gem's hidden location. Nick and Halsey plunged into an underground tunnel, only to arrive too late. Amonet had already begun her dark work, resurrecting ancient knights as zombies, and they were ready to tear through anyone in her way. Desperate, Nick fought off the undead, trying to protect Halsey. But the battle took a darker turn when Amonet restored the red gem to the dagger, her power now unimaginable. In the flooded tunnel, Amonet dragged Halsey beneath the surface. Nick raced to save her but was too late. Halsey's lifeless body floated back up. Heartbroken, he carried her to dry land. Nick was overpowered by zombies, dragged closer to Amonet. He saw Halsey's body nearby, motionless. Holding the restored dagger, Amonet demanded he approach. Nick tried to fight back, but his efforts were in vain. The weight of the moment crushed him. He was left with an impossible choice: succumb to Amonet's will, or defy fate and find a way to resist her. Nick stood still, his gaze locked on Halsey's lifeless body. Grief overwhelmed him, but urgency pressed him forward. In the silence, Amonet, the ancient princess, launched another fierce attack. Severely wounded, Nick struggled to remain conscious. Trapped but resolute, Nick seized the ancient dagger from Amonet's grasp. In a desperate move, he struck the gem, causing it to crack. Amonet froze, warning that shattering the gem would come at a cost, a price that would endanger his life and his chance to wield immense power. With a final glance at Halsey's motionless form, Nick made a fateful decision. He chose to wield the dagger's power on himself. A surge of energy overwhelmed him, and he collapsed. When he awoke, he found himself transformed, possessing abilities beyond his comprehension. Empowered, Nick destroyed the dagger, then focused on Amonet. Yet his thoughts lingered on Halsey's body. Amonet attempted to manipulate him, sensing his inner conflict, but Nick resisted, his resolve strengthening as he confronted Amonet in a final battle, erasing her curse and returning her to her original form, a mummified corpse. Nick, battered but determined, moved toward Halsey's body, sorrow weighing on him. In an unexpected turn, his powers revived her. Halsey awoke, disoriented by both the battle and Nick's transformation. Halsey approached, but Nick stopped her. With a heavy heart, he confessed that he was no longer just a man. Fearing for her safety, he knew he had to leave. As Henry arrived, Nick vanished into the shadows, choosing to protect her and the world from afar. Sometime later, Henry secured Amonet's remains in a containment fluid. Meanwhile, Nick, accepting his new fate, resurrected his friend Vale. They set off on a journey to Egypt, seeking answers about the strange power now coursing through Nick. Back in London, Henry hoped for the future, believing Nick's transformation could be pivotal against a growing threat. The world stood on the brink of greater dangers, and this was only the beginning of a long and uncertain battle. And so concludes The Mummy. We hope this breakdown enhanced your viewing experience. Don't forget to leave a comment and share your thoughts. See you in the next video.